Good afternoon, this is your daily briefing and you're most welcome to it. Quite a bit to get through. We're going to start off with the Supporters Trust, but hold tight, it is funny. Some brilliant stuff that came from you, and it was much better than any ideas I had for that to do a spoof of that Paratici video, and a little roundup of the international action for you as well. So a number of Tottenham fans have reacted negatively after the club refused to meet with them, meet with the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. But they're not so much angry towards the club, but actually at the trust itself. And Spurs got off to a troubled start this season, as we know, but the trust took it upon themselves because they really believe they can scent blood here. And it just goes to show to me they're not supposed to be involved with what happens on the pitch. It's all off the pitch. So think ticketing, think sachets of ketchup, think all of that stuff. Travel arrangements to get to, Yarmouth away. That's always been their territory. But they've become increasingly frustrated and marginalised over the years. I've been here for a long time, so you don't have to worry about the archives of all this stuff. And it's turned them a little bit bitter, a little bit salty, a little bit nasty. And if you can imagine, if a sanctimonious anus turns nasty, just how awful those people must be. So Matt Law ran a tweet to promote an article from the Telegraph, and it kind of backfired. And this is from my guy Bruce Castle on theboyhotspur.com, who does some very good work and is an unsung hero. And Law tweeted that May 2021, Daniel Levy, it has never been because we don't care about or respect you, our fans. Nothing could be further from the truth. And then fast forward to October 2021, Tottenham turned down an invite to meet with THST official over supporter concerns. I mean, we're all concerned. I mean, we all have concerns, but the trust is not there to mumble and whine about why aren't we beating Chelsea 3-0 opposed to losing 3-0. That doesn't come within their gift. It's not part of their remit. So Law was trying to sort of have a dig here, and my guy Bruce says that Law adds that Levy has now refused to meet with the same fans that the journalist reckons Levy professed to care about. Law posted the article on his Twitter account, and fans filled the comments with their views of the development, and it seems that his clickbaiting and stirring did not have the effect he had hoped for. Most of the responses were far more anti-trust, and rightfully so. And if Law or his fellow journalists knew anything about Spurs, and I keep on telling you, a lot of these guys aren't cutting the mustard. They're just not quite good enough. If they knew anything about Spurs, that they would have known how a good number of Tottenham fans hold the trust in such low esteem. So it's not just that crazy guy on YouTube, it's actually a whole rake of people. And most people, I would suggest, ordinary, normal, decent people, if you speak to them, they just roll their eyes, and because they see them for what they are. And the truth is, goes on Mr. Grove, Mr. Castle even, the truth is that the trust do not represent a lot of Spurs fans, and if the media try to push this agenda, they will come unstuck. They have enough ammo to use on Levy without trying this rubbish. So we got the tweet from Mr. Law there, and here's a sample of the replies. Not a fan of Levy, but THST official is a joke, so it doesn't really matter. When he said about fans, he wasn't talking about the trust, he was talking about real fans, opposed to Marxists that wander around sneering at things. Didn't the THST turn down an invite from Spurs not so long ago? There's a follow-up tweet which I've added in here for a bit of context. No, the trust asked to set an agenda of discussion for the meeting, and the club refused, causing the TST to see it as a pointless endeavour and decline themselves. The trust said they didn't want to deal with the current board anymore, then demanded a meeting. They've played it as poorly as Levy. The real problem with this bunch is I mean, I could go on for days, and I appreciate you probably lose interest, but the real problem is that they want it their own way, and they think that they can take what sort of esoteric university time wasters might drum up in a smoking room or whatever. They think they can take that and bring it into the real world and inflict it on people. And the reality is, nobody wants to know. The idea of saying to a board of a private business, I keep on saying to this to you, a private business, we don't want you on the board anymore. We want you to resign. You smell, you stink, go away. We don't... Who in their right mind would take that seriously? And then this crazy thing for this inserting another board and then inserting... There's lots of inserting as far as the trust goes, trust me. And none with no lubrication in view. Inserting a competition winner onto the actual board of the club, and then have a board of lesser competition, other prize winners. Absolutely insane. And some of you laughed at me when I referred to these clowns as Marxists. I hope the penny's dropping. Let me know when the penny drops. Don't tell me the penny hasn't dropped, because that's not my problem. Let me know when the penny's dropped. And final word on the trust. There was so much in their reply on their website yesterday. I actually overlooked this little paragraph, and I just thought I'd share it with you. Because again, you know, if you're still undecided about the trust, I'll ask you to consider these words. We continue to argue for a pragmatic approach that puts constructive solutions before merely expressing anger. But we need to go back to our members and see if they agree. I would be very interested to put this wording in front of a half-decent solicitor and see if we didn't actually have a malicious communication. Merely expressing anger. How do you express anger? Well, you scream, you shout, you might throw a chair across the room, could chuck a brick through a stadium window. You see how these things can escalate? Because anger is a very strong word. It's like when somebody says, I hate you. It's not a halfway house. It's a very strong word, anger. Expressing anger, that becomes even more, has even more strength to it. We need to go back to our members and see if they agree. So what you're saying is, my favourite phrase of all time, but what they're actually saying is, we've got 20,000 people there, and we could have a task force of time wasters outside your premises at a moment's notice. This is not even a thinly veiled threat, and this is the route that they have taken. This is the business of them standing on the pavement, as I say, out on the pavement. We don't like what you're doing, and that, my friends, we live in a Western democracy. Lap it up. Speaking of crazy people, the video from Don Paratici went down very well with everybody. Nobody took it as a serious positive thing. It was just a staged piece of nonsense, and some fantastic comments, reaction from you guys. Chris, longest I've seen him not making a phone call. Robert Collins, putting the Don into Doner Kebab. This guy is a spin doctor. Graham Davis, you really don't need to parody this. It's like Ricky Gervais on acid. God help us if this is the calibre of our senior management. And that sentiment was echoed to me by a number of people I take seriously in the real world, after they were jumping up and down and screaming and shouting and swearing at referees and players when they were allowed into the technical area to sit with the thing. The idea that these are senior management figures within the club, you're mind-boggling. Cuva 99, you tell them Baldini, I mean Paratici, and that's a joke that the millennials won't get. We've been here before. All of these people are patsies. Truther PD, the only thing missing is Baldy McTightfist appearing at the end saying, I'm Daniel Levy and I approve this message. And I have to slip in one here that I heard on Twitter, which I still haven't got over. I think it's tremendous. And a guy said, if the Don is cooking, what's he using? A radiator. Right, international roundup. There's not a lot of meat on the bone here, but let's just spin through it. South Korea versus Syria World Cup qualifiers, third round. Son Heung-min started. Sonny scored in the 89th minute. South Korea won 2-1, and Sonny had a solid game in all disciplines, scoring once and providing 3 shot assists. I can't provide you with the video because they've banned it worldwide. The big football family, eh? Slovenia under-21, England under-21 saw Oliver Skip start. He was involved in a goal in the 5th minute That video we did get, and that's up there for you, and England eventually drew 2-2. Ollie had a commanding game for the under-21s. Lots of good passing, including accurate long passes, 2 good dribbles, and 11 interceptions. So just, you know, it's difficult to compare apples with oranges, but clearly Slovenia under-21, not quite Premier League standard. Belgium played France in the Nations League semi-final, and they just about won. Hugo Lloris started. France won 3-2 and advanced to the final, where they will meet Spain. Hugo was up against some Mickey Mouse French defending and some determined Belgian finishing. I think the French went down by 2 goals and they clawed it back to win 3-2, so bravo. So I think the final will be worth watching. Paraguay versus Argentina World Cup qualifier. Christian Romero and Giovanni Lo Celso started. Lo Celso came off in the 76th minute. Argentina drew 0-0. Lo Celso had a decent, if unremarkable, 76 minutes for Argentina. No injury worries there. Romero was busy enough himself, making 21 duels, but he only won 52% of them. And finally, Uruguay versus Colombia, World Cup qualifier. Davinson Sanchez was on the Colombian bench, and that is where he stayed. That game ended 0-0. And equal in final place, Venezuela versus Brazil, World Cup qualifier. Emerson Royale was on the bench, but he came on for 19 minutes, and as you can imagine, predictably didn't get an opportunity to do very much. Brazil won 3-1. I have to say, it's great to see the voices, and I know we only have social media, which is a little bit of a cesspit, but the voice is changing, and we're getting more people going for the club's throat, the owners of the club. That's very promising to see. It's too late. You should have acted before they demolished the White Hart Lane and then put some £1 billion in the hole with the banks. But it's refreshing to see that people are thinking, always welcome. And it's fantastic to see the Trust getting a rough ride. The wheels are beginning to squeak. They will start to peep their usual routine. We are volunteers. We don't get paid. Nobody cares. And what I'd really like to know, and maybe you can ask them, because they block me on every channel going, where's the money gone? What, you've had a lot of people sign up at a tenner a pop. What are you doing with the money? I'm not a tax inspector, but I'm just curious. Because, you know, you give people money for a thing and they buy a dialysis machine, or they you know, the Boy Scouts, they buy themselves a new canoe or whatever it is. So what are you doing with all this money if you're charging people? And this, I mean, this is. The dog's going out as he met. Oh, he's found a pulse. But this is the equivalent of the super chats. What are you charging people for? I'm allowed to say that, aren't I? I mean, a supporters trust shouldn't be a profit-making organisation. They continuously have told us in the past that they don't get paid, that they're volunteers. So therefore, you know, give us a break. We're not taking any money. So those people, they've amassed fortunes, tens of thousands of pounds. And all I'm asking is, what have you done with it? Do you have to be in some secret magic circle to see their numbers? What are you doing with all this money you've lifted off of people? Because I don't think you're worth paying. That's me personally. And I'm pleased to see other voices joining my little choir. But I don't think you're worth paying. So therefore, I'm just curious, what are you doing with this money that you're lifting from people? I mean, the super chat guys, I know what they're doing with it. They're spending it on food, drinks, cigars. None of them appear to be spending it on clothes. But you know what I mean. I mean, what are you doing with the money? And isn't there something useful you could be doing with the money? I seem to recall that there have been, over the years, there have been numerous people complaining about they wanted to have banners and flags and this, that and the other. And the Trust immediately went, oh, no, you've got to meet the fire regulations and you can't just bring along anything and it has to be approved. Well, let's get that done. If you're sitting on lumps of cash, I bet you there are local businesses in Haringey who could provide you with to the right specification to get a bit of match day atmosphere going. I mean, we see it in other parts of the world. Why are the English so reticent? And one of the major problems is you don't have funding. We've got the money sitting there. So there you go. Power to the people, popular people's front of Enfield, or whatever they call themselves. Why aren't you spending the money, investing the money back in amongst the supporters? And I bet if you put an advert up on your delicious website, on your big, hugely successful social media channel, which is only for transmitting. If you wish to have a dialogue with us, you have to get in touch directly, separately, which is to say we're not going to have a conversation with anybody in public, because we'll make an absolute prize prune of ourselves. But I bet if you put up a thing saying, we're going to give you £5,000 or 10 grand, but something, a proper amount of money. We're going to give you £5,000, £7,000. What would you like us to do with it? Whistles, badges, toilet rolls to throw on the pitch, whatever's agreeable, whatever the club say, yeah, that's okay. What, like we had the Jimmy Greaves thing. I mean, we had it come up on a digital display, but that's like gone. Wouldn't it be great if there was a big thing with Bill Nick or Jimmy Greaves or something like that? Call me old-fashioned, but just to remind everybody that we're in a football stadium. Well, it used to be, but they knocked it down. Right, that's it. I've gone way over. Good luck. And despite them, keep it Tottenham.